It is what it is. I mean, people just don't know what they're giving up. And then once they realize it, and then it's compromised, people are just in shock. I can't believe this happened, and all these different things.
Before we get started on today's episode, I'd like to introduce to you a brand new segment we'll be incorporating into the Infusion Breakdown Show podcast, our Black-owned business of the week, where we'll be showcasing quality Black-owned businesses for you to support. This week's Black-owned business of the week is the Happy Cafe located in Virginia Beach, where they have excellent food regardless of the time of day, from delicious ham, egg, and cheese croissants for breakfast to amazing crab cakes you can get after 4 p.m. They even have vegan options. I personally recommend the acai bowl, however you want to pronounce it, but be sure to check them out if you haven't already. With every search, like, share, and subscription, we offer more and more of our valuable consumer data up to big tech corporations as we consume their platforms. On this week's episode of the Infusion Breakdown Show, the Breakdown crew was joined by special guest, Mr. Trevor Burrell, as well as returning guest Anthony Rome, as we discussed what concerns we had around big tech and how our data is utilized, or the lack thereof. Let's see what we come up with.
So the question we have for today, what concerns, if any, do you have when it comes to major tech companies and how they use user data? Comment below, let us know your opinion. We also have timestamps in the description below as always. Be sure to check them out. Also, today's guests include returner Anthony Rome and also newcomer Trevor Burrell.
Trevor, would you like to start us off?
Sure, man. So big data, like big tech, and our data. So I think that data is gold today. I think that's really what it is. And I think people don't realize what they give up when they are sharing their data for, quote unquote, being able to use the technology for free. The big companies, Google, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, like all these companies, they're using the biggest tech companies in the world, and they use our data, free of use to us so we can use their platforms. And they get so much more from it than we get from them. I mean, we're able to go on and like post and comment and shop and do all these different things, which are, all fun and good. But, our data will predict what we're going to do for not just that day, that decision. It predicts our times that we're going to be on the platform. It determines how we're going to spend our money, the people we interact with, every little microcosms of just things that we like to do as humans, and they get it for free just to do something like, silly or fun, to play a game on Facebook or something. So I think our data is gold. And I think that, for one, I think that companies, or if not the companies themselves, I think other groups and other organizations should definitely put that message out to the consumer, like, hey, like your data is gold, like, understand what it's for. I think companies should, at least pay users for their data instead of having it for free. I don't know how that would look, but I think that'd be really cool because there are people who love to be on Facebook all day for free. And, if they found out they could get paid from it, that's just a whole new job market, possibly. And, what they're getting paid to what the companies are gaining from that, I feel like will be substantial. Like it's a job for people that want to, use those tools. And then it's also, it's still, those companies are still making money, but they are paying people. So that's what I think. I think data is like gold. I think the biggest companies in the world are just, I don't want to say they're exploiting the consumer, but they just don't put it out there. You got Apple now, that's big on privacy. I think with iOS today, they give users the option to opt into like ads and things like that for Facebook. So a lot of users, I think I read something last week, it was like 50% of iOS users have chosen to not share certain data, or lock certain privacy tools up automatically because Apple gives them the option to do that. And so you've got Facebook, like scrambling, like, all like 50% of, this particular user base that uses iOS, now they don't want to do this. And it's just like that number is probably just going to grow more and more because now people are aware. So I think it's with data, I think the more people are aware of how valuable it is, what exactly they're giving up, and how companies benefit and profit off of it, I think the consumer will just be more, less likely to want to share it. In my opinion. But I think it's gold, like, just to kind of state my point, I really think it is. It's Bitcoin, it's Ethereum, it's whatever, it's just such a valuable asset, and we don't even realize like how much, our trends and our data is truly, the bottom line for a lot of these companies.
You made, I guess, an interesting point that I kind of want to circle back to, and for you to elaborate on, if you would, about so the goods that we're purchasing or the value that we're getting from these services being lesser than the value that these companies are getting from us. So in the instance of your online shopping and things of that nature, could you clarify with that? Like, what exactly do you mean by that?
Sure. So if you go on to Amazon, for example, right, and you are searching for like, I don't know, what's up with those robots, those iRobots, they, go around your house, they clean up for you, for example. All right, so you're searching for that, you've done a few searches on Amazon, and then you open up Instagram, just scrolling through Instagram, liking your friends' pictures, and then boom, you see an advertisement for an iRobot. And not just an iRobot, you see one for like every off-name brand vacuum cleaner that is gonna clean up your house for you. And so people always see stuff like that, like, dang, this phone listening to me. I said it out loud, or I was just searching this, and now look at it, what it's doing. Okay, when people go to Instagram, they're not necessarily there to see ads. You can say that about TV. People aren't turning on TV to watch the commercials, but when you go to Instagram, your primary focus is, I want to see my friends' stories, I want to like some pictures, all that stuff. So when you see different things like that, you're just like, dang, well, now they're all over my shopping trends, and I don't even want to see this on Instagram or whatever. So the problem is, it can get more personal, like an iRobot or something like that. You could have been getting that for a friend, for a birthday gift or something, and that's whatever, it's fine. But when you start to search for more like personal items, like if a woman was looking for something, just like personal to her, and she was shopping on Amazon, and now she opens up Instagram, that's all she sees. What if she's around someone, and she's just on Instagram and like that pops up? It's just one of those things where people don't like that feeling because they feel like they're being watched. It's just like, if you're in your house, just going about your day, going about your business, and then you start to see advertisements based on what you were just doing, people feel like invaded. Like, that's not a good feeling to have. Now, over time, people might just, get over that feeling. They might just feel like, okay, well, it is what it is. Someone's always just gonna be watching, you have to get over it. But like, that's not comfortable. Like, that's why people, even when they have these smart devices in their home, they like to turn the mics off at some point. They like to hide the camera on your laptops. Maybe you guys, hide your little camera when you're not actively video chatting. So it's things like that I think that companies just like, pull from, and the consumer just feels very, very uncomfortable. So the point I'm, trying to reference is that on an individual level is not a lot. They could be looking at all of us, and they're not going to make a whole lot of money. It's not because we don't shop and use these tools and Facebook and Instagram, but it's just like, we're so small in the grand scheme of things. Like, they're getting billions of users of data for free, and that just adds up. So, when you're looking at how many people get on these sites every single day, every second, that are just, using it for whatever purpose, and they're able to collect that freely, it's just like, yeah, they do get a lot from that. Individually, we don't make up a lot, but all together, like the billions of people that use social networks, e-commerce sites, it's a lot. And I think that it's just for free. Like, we don't get any type of compensation for it. So except to like post and shop or whatever. That's what we want to do. That's the access, that's the admission. Right. We agree to release our data and so forth. So
I don't know much about user data and everything like that. I have a question though. Isn't that just really just another step in capitalism, to be honest with you? Them finding other ways to create ads for you so you can basically buy their stuff? Isn't that? I don't know if you're saying it's wrong. I don't know if you're saying it's wrong, but are you saying it's wrong? I don't know.
I know it's a concern,
but is it wrong?
Yeah, I think it can make people feel a certain type of way, at the very least, to say whether it's right or wrong. Because if I had a business and I said, hey, I have a social network, right? And I want people to use my social network, but I'm not charging them a dollar price. I'm like, hey, you agree to, let me see your data, your usage, et cetera, et cetera. In exchange, you can use this application for free. Okay, as a business person, I think I would do that. Like, I want to be as cost effective to make people come into the door. Maybe they can spend money after that. But I think it is capitalism. I really do think it comes down to that. But anybody in that space, anybody in the industry would do the same thing. So I do think it's capitalism. I do think it's greed, but I also think that there should be some level of transparency. There are a lot of people that just aren't aware of what they are really giving up, and they should read into things. People don't read, which is that's their own fault. But if you were to create a Facebook account today, if you were to make a Twitter account, Instagram account today, people know what those products offer. They're so quick to just like click, agree, accept. And I think there should just be more emphasis on what are you signing up for? Or even if you have these accounts, that's great, but limit the things that you share. Don't give it all for away if you don't necessarily have to. Why do you want all these apps tracking your location? Why do you like, you don't need that. You can turn it off. You can allow it while it's only in the app, or allow one time if it's for a special feature that you want to just test out. So I think with that,
who should put more emphasis on it? Should it be the people, or should it be the companies that's actually doing it?
That's a great question. If I were a company, I would just be transparent about what it is. But a lot of people would
lose you.
It could, but check this out too. If you're the one person being transparent and everyone else is going about it all shady, people will be like, and you could be doing all the dirt just like all these other companies, but you appear to be transparent or something like that, people would be like, okay, I'm going to go to them. So the example I gave of Apple has tools and some of their latest iOS updates that say, hey, you can turn off certain sharing features, automatically in our settings, and we'll block it across all these different apps. Okay, well, now Apple's kind of known as the more, secure. If you compare it to Android, people might look at Apple as more secure. I mean, iMessage is an encrypted service. Like, they're big on privacy, or that's been their latest messaging in the past couple of years. So Apple is in the business of doing all the things that Facebook and these companies are, but at least they're the one company that's saying, your privacy is your concern. We're not tracking you. We make it harder for companies and apps to track you as well. Well, that piques my interest at the very least. As a consumer, I'm just like, well, I know my iPhone is, protected in some way. Someone can't just pick it up and get into my phone and, do what they will with anything. So for me as a consumer, I like that, you know what I'm saying? And so other people that are looking to buy an iPhone or Apple product, they'll hear that messaging and they'll be like, okay, I like that. And it's not that, maybe Google is doing something to counter that, but maybe they're only doing it because Apple is doing it. So I think that it's something where it's a weird line, but it's like whoever tries to stand up and seems like the good person or the good guy, I think will benefit. At least if they do it first, they will benefit the most, in my opinion.
I mean, to the point of, on the behalf of the corporation, I've seen differences between the user agreements directly. I guess when I compared the agreements between Snapchat and then Facebook, Snapchat's terms are much simpler to comprehend for the user. And I do think that a lot of times when there are legal speak and jargon incorporated into documents that are agreements that are given to the average person, like you or I, it's presented in such a manner where it's not easily comprehensible, and you need a law degree, and even then, it may be negligible at best. So I think it's a joint effort. Like, we should definitely be more informed about what we're signing up for, but I do also think that it should also be met halfway by the corporations in a way that is digestible by the average person, their actual target audience, the same way that they're customizing the actual service itself, customize the agreement.
How many people do you guys feel actually care about this user data type information we're talking about right now? Give a percentage, I guess we can go.
Well, I'll answer. Before I get the percentage, I want to say this too. I feel like people don't know to care, first of all. And second, I would say the percentage is probably 20% or less, like of all the people that they use these type of services.
Okay, so I asked that to say, if it's like such a low percentage, I would say, why would the companies go out and be like, okay, we're doing this with your data. You might feel uncomfortable with it, but we're doing this with your data. But what they will actually say, we're having you use this platform for free, so we can do whatever the fuck we want to do because you're using our platform for free to have fun. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm going with.
So I'll add on to that too. Whenever we hear about a big data breach, people are like up in arms. They're just like, what? You did what with my data? You didn't protect. Like, people are like, they go crazy. It's kind of like Target, exactly. It's kind of like I don't know if you guys have been in this situation, but when I try to help my parents out, and we had this conversation at the time, Brian, when I try to help my parents out with like, signing up for an account or something like that, they're always just like, well, what are they going to do with my information? And my parents are like, it could be like, I'm signing up for a brokerage app or something like that, and they have to enter their social security number. They're like, well, why do they need to know that? Or they're going to take my information and scan with all this other stuff. And it's like, my parents aren't saying that from like a, what's it called? Like, they're worried about all the Facebook, the app. They're not worried about all that stuff. They're worried about, back in my day, we just never gave out our information to anybody. And now you just let me type it on the computer, and, someone can get that. And it's like, it's not as easy as that. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's giving out your information like that is, people feel, I don't know, they just feel a type of way, and the more people are aware that things like this are going on, the more they care. So when we talk about Target, people were just like up in arms, like, how could they lose our data? I don't feel safe, shopping here, shopping there. And a lot of the data was, credit card information, which can easily be handled. You can dispute these things, but people were still really upset about it. And they didn't know that, all these different things, I'm sure it was more than credit card data that was being stolen, or, that was being looked at by people that were looking to gain the upper hand. So I think that is just, I don't know, you just have to limit, you have to be knowledgeable about some of the stuff you're sharing. And then to additionally just, I don't know, if people knew all the things that they shared, I feel like people wouldn't share all those things, like, I guess they're not aware of every single thing. They just think, oh, I just liked something on Facebook, or, I just went to Target and I bought something else. They're not thinking of it as like, people are analyzing their trends and all these different things. But I also think there's a segment of people that are okay with that, because maybe they want ads tailored to them, so they know what to find, what to shop for. That's not me. I would think it's probably not a lot of us in this conversation, but it is what it is. I mean, people just don't know what they're giving up, and then once they realize it, and then it's compromised, people are just in shock. I can't believe this happened, and all these different things. So that's my opinion.
Okay, I got you. I don't know if Rome wants to go. Did you want to say something, Brian?
No, I'm curious to hear Rome's take. I'll let him go first.
So I agree with parts of what Trevor's saying, but I'm definitely on the opposite end of the spectrum. Like, I really don't care about the data that companies collect, and I think that most people don't care. So I feel that like Trevor's part of the 20% of people who actually care. Like, I'm in the majority. I feel like I don't care. I feel like most people don't care. The younger you are, I feel like the less likely you are to care. Maybe because you're not aware of it, or so maybe it's like a blissful thing, but also I think it's a convenience thing as well. And I think that most people are like in this mindset where they don't want to have to like turn off their location and block their app from doing this and block apps from doing that, because then what happens when you have to like when you're like trying to find like the nearest restaurant towards you, and then like it's giving you like random recommendations, and you're like, oh well, I gotta like unblock this and I gotta turn like nobody wants to go through all that. It's just easier to accept it at the beginning. And I feel like most companies are upfront about it. Like, like it's on the user, what I mean? Like, I can't get mad at a company for doing something when I don't take the time to read the user agreement. You know what I mean? Like, that's like, if I buy like a plastic bag and like I put it over my head and I'm like mad because, like I can't get mad because like I didn't read the directions. I said don't put it over your head. It's like, and like, what am I going to say? Like well, like Hefty should have been like in a bolder print, like don't put this over your head. Like, what I mean? Like, it's like I can't do that. Like we ask these companies to be upfront about it. So like as soon as you download an app, like they like before you can even do anything half the time, or like right when you make the account, like they give you the terms and conditions and their privacy settings and everything like that. And whether you choose to read that or not is on you. That's completely on the user. But the company is usually upfront about it. If they're hiding anything, that's a different story. But usually they aren't. Usually it's in their terms and conditions. Now, if the wording of it is something that we can't understand, that also kind of goes back to like due diligence. It's like these are tech people, you know what I mean? And this is legal terms. So it's like I'm not a tax person. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand all the wording, like, you know what I mean? Like everything that the IRS wants me to do. That's why I just, you know, hire a tax person to do all that stuff. So I make sure I don't get anything wrong. I'm not going to get mad that like my taxes are done wrong because if I'm doing them, because it's like, I obviously don't understand all of it. So I give it to somebody who knows what they're doing. You know, they understand all the terminology of all that stuff, you know? So I feel like if we want to know more about it, then we just do the due diligence, look it up, find out more about what we want to learn about. But if not, then I mean, that kind of goes back on the user. So I feel like I'm in the majority of people who are going to go for the convenience over the hassle. Like I know people who put their tape over their like computer camera and stuff like that, or whatever the case is. Like I don't do that. Like to me, it's a waste of time. Like I don't do that. Like these companies are already tracking everything. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that Apple's better than like Facebook or anything like that. If anything, I feel like Apple's probably worse. You know, like when you get the iPhone, they track all your information. You know what I mean? Like they have all the sensitive information about you. But the thing is, the only difference is when you get the iPhone is it's not listed up front when you get it. When you make a Facebook account or you make an Instagram account or a Snapchat or something like that, like all the information is presented to you up front, like in the terms and conditions, the privacy policy. You don't get that when you get an iPhone. It's not like you don't agree to that when you get an iPhone. It's not there, you know? So you don't know everything that they're tracking. So I feel like that's a little bit of a shadier way to operate, you know? Like, now, I do appreciate companies giving us options to then forth like lower, you know, how much they get from us. You know, like we can gauge our privacy. You know, I can choose if I want them to collect certain things and stuff like that, which is amazing. But at the end of the day, like I think the majority of people aren't going to opt in to do that stuff. Like I think it really comes down to convenience thing. You know, there are like 3 different ways that companies collect data. They directly ask for it, or they indirectly track them, or they acquire it from other companies. And most apps are just gonna directly ask you for it. Like, hey, can we like track your location? Or hey, can we access your contacts or whatever? You know, like they're not gonna like try to do it another way. Like, you know what I mean? Most apps are just gonna directly ask you for it. Now there are other apps that like get your data in another way, you know what I mean? Like there are other apps that like listen to your conversations while you have like the app running in the background, you know? Like I mean, that's a little bit more of a shadier thing to do, but at the same time, if it's in their terms and conditions, that's up to you to close the app. But should they be upfront about it? Like when they update those things? Yeah. But if they are upfront and you don't read the terms and conditions or the newest update, then like it kind of goes back on the user, because you can't sue somebody for putting the bag over your head when, you know, you put the bag over your head. I mean, there's tons of companies that sell your data, right? Like Instagram, Facebook, Uber Eats, you know, eBay, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. GrubHub, you know what I mean? Like they're all like tracking your data like in high percentages, right? And I mean, they're selling it because it's valuable. Like Trevor said, it is gold. They're selling it, but at the end of the day, like, do most people really care that like GrubHub's selling their like data or that Amazon's selling their data? I don't think most people care. You know what I mean? I think most people, when they get on their Instagram, although they're on there to interact with their friends and families and keep up with like whatever news they're interested in, I think most people are probably going to opt in to have an experience where they have personalized ads. Like if you're into like Nikes, or if you're into hip hop music, if you're into like, you know, Giannis and like, you know, like him winning the championship, like if like whatever you're into at that moment, if like that's what you're seeing on like ads, it's probably going to bother you less. In fact, you might not even notice it because you're actually into it and it's blending in with the rest of your feed. But if it's something like off the wall, like a Clorox ad or like telling you to sign up for like blackpeoplemeet.com or like, like if it's like if it's like some off the wall ad that like doesn't relate to you, like if it's like telling you to like make a Pinterest for your scarf club, like like you're not like a middle-aged mom, so like you'd be like, yo, like get this crap off my feed, like this doesn't pertain to me. But if you see like an ad for like Nike shoes or something like that, you might actually be like, oh, those look cool. You might not click on it, but you might look at it for a little while. Now the app's tracking that, and they're like knowing like, oh wow, they took the time to look at this, they stopped, they might even scrolled on it if it's a carousel, like they might not have bought it, that the click-through rate might not be there, but they know that you're interested in it, so which means you weren't annoyed by it, so they're probably going to put more of that stuff on your feed. I think people rather have that than like just like a dozen random ads that don't pertain to me. Like like I don't get ads about like Burger King or McDonald's or anything like that, because I look up so much vegan stuff on my phone, on Google, on Instagram, on like other apps. Like I never get like ads about stuff that isn't vegan related. You know what I mean? Like half the time the stuff that I get recommended to me is like music or like fashion or like involving like video games or something like that, which is cool because that's the stuff I'm into. So I don't even notice it because it blends into the rest of myself. Sometimes I actually like it. For instance, the other day I get an ad on my Instagram, and I'm rambling, so feel free to cut me off. But the other day I get an ad on my Instagram, and it's for this company called Backbone, right? It's literally like a company that makes this switch type of device that connects to your iPhone, and you can connect it and you can like play video games on it, like mobile, right? I don't think anything of it. I click on the profile, I look at it, I see like a couple reviews on it. I'm thinking like, wow, this is dope. And that's literally it. Like, I'm just thinking like, wow, this is dope. Like I would probably get this, but that's all I'm thinking. So I'm on ClubHouse, like the next day, like I'm having a gameplay meeting. I'm on ClubHouse. And next thing you know, like this guy joins the room. One of the guys that's been in the room's like, yo, this is my buddy. He's like working on a startup, and we're like, yo, like, what's up, bro? He's like, yeah, like, like I'm working on this startup called Backbone. I'm like thinking like, yo, that sounds familiar. I can't remember where I've heard that before, but like, nevertheless, I let this guy continue talking. Like, he starts talking about his company, what it is, and I start looking it up on Instagram. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. I just seen your ad. I tell this guy like, yo, I just seen your ad on like my feed. Everybody else in the room starts saying like something similar, like, yo, like I've seen this ad before, like, yo, like yo, your stuff's popped up on my page, or like, yo, like I follow you or whatever. And it's like nobody's bothered by the fact that like we saw this guy's ads. Nobody's like, yo, like your ads are bothering me, like, because we're all gamers, we're all interested in his product. Like some of us were even like talking to him like, yo, like I was thinking about buying it. Like some of the people in the room are like, yo, like I have one on reserve right now. So which got other people in the room to be like, yo, like I actually might buy it now because I thought that ad was interesting. So I don't think people care about that stuff, because at the end of the day, if it's personalized towards you, it's bringing value towards you. If it's not personalized towards you, then it's a waste of your time. It's not convenient anymore.
You bring up a lot of good points. I would say that I still disagree.
I was gonna ask some question.
Oh, well, yeah, go ahead.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Do you want to?
Yes, I do want to. But Rome, would you be concerned if you found out one of the social media apps you were using were sending like your personal information to like China or something? Would you be concerned?
Absolutely not. No, I wouldn't be concerned at all. Like I think this kind of goes back to something that y'all said before. Like we're just like me, like I'm just like a small fish in like this huge pond, like this huge ocean of data, right? So China's not going to get anything out of me. It'll be like one thing if I was like Obama or something like that, then like, yeah, like, like I probably would care about like another country collecting my data, you know what I mean? But the fact of the matter is like, I'm, like I'm just like a regular person, you know what I mean? Like everybody else. And if like Russia or China or something like that is collecting like some data from me, like first of all, like how would we know? Second, like what are they going to do to it to like affect like my actual like well-being and like my like standard of living, like, you know what I mean? Like, are they actually doing anything to like affect me as a person? Like, is it just like data they're collecting from like Americans or like people that are using this app, like that's just giving them like feedback about the app, or is it like giving them feedback about like our way of life, or like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, it brings up a lot of bigger questions. Like, are they like trying to like actually like do things that are malice, like with like ill intent? Like, are they actually trying to like steal people's like identity, or like are they trying to like ruin people's lives, or like, you know, like are they setting up like deep fakes or people or something like that? It's a bigger question. Like, and the short answer is no, I don't care. Depending on what it's used for, then yeah, I probably would care if somebody was like making a deep fake of me or stealing my identity or like trying to get in my bank information or something like that, then like, yeah. But if they're just like collecting like information, like data information, like how long I'm on the app, or like, you know, like the click-through rate of stuff, or like tracking my eyes to see what I'm looking at, or, you know, like seeing who I'm following, or like stuff like that. Like, I don't know, to me, that's like analytic stuff. That's the type of stuff that any other company's tracking. If it, you know, like whether it's a Chinese company or a Russian company or whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's that, to me, that's kind of like basic analytic stuff that you can access on like your own account. So if another company was like tracking that, like, I wouldn't care.
Okay. Gotcha. You can go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry. I didn't want to intrude on you.
No. No worries about that. To your point about whether or not it mattered when the data is being sent to China and I guess these different foreign entities, wasn't there a whole scandal or debacle about election influence, and whether or not you agree with what capacity it occurred, but just the prospect that data could be used to manipulate the larger market of individuals?
I'm assuming you're talking to Rome.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so this kind of goes back to like, what is the data that they're collecting being used for, right? So like I said, if it's like basic analytic information, like, you know, like demographic information, or like tracking like what I'm clicking on or how long I'm on the app or something like that, then like, no, like I wouldn't care about that stuff. Now, if they're like stealing my information or, you know, like stuff like that, then like, and when I say stealing my information, I mean like, you know, like private information, like, you know, like my social security or like my bank information, stuff like that. Not just like, you know, like my email address or something like that. Like that's not like, you know,
email might kind of fall under that. So like with the whole concept of personal identifiable information, for example, if you work in any large company or specifically like for the healthcare industry, they have certain laws and regulations to prevent the loss or the nature of their customers or patients' data being compromised, just for the fact of how detrimental it could be, like somebody getting your health records and exposing it or taking advantage of that. So I think like even with email, that's not a good that's not a good example. I do see what you're saying with there being two kinds of discernment, where you're saying that, okay, this is how long you're on the app, this is what time you log in, versus, okay, email, phone number. Like this has been going on for years. You think about like the telemarketers that get your phone numbers and they sell them through the different circles and they circulate. It's like, hey, your Cadillac warranty is up and you don't even own a Cadillac, you don't have a car, and that kind of bullshit. I feel like that's definitely crossing the line for identifying information. Like anything that is tied to you specific, that is not abstracted. Like if they can't say, okay, user X was on this app, okay, that's different. But if it's saying, okay, user's X email is anthonyrome@gmail.com, or user X's phone number is, okay, I feel like that is where the line should be drawn, because that is information that can be traced back to an individual. But
yeah, I mean, and that I think that kind of goes back to like one of those privacy things that we mentioned before. Like, is this something that you agreed upon? And I feel like if you're willing to, like when you sign up, if you're willing to give this company your like email address, your phone number, you know what I mean, et cetera, then then I mean, like, they have it, you know what I mean? And if you accept their like privacy and their terms and conditions, and they're telling you like, yeah, like we're collecting your email and your phone number and stuff like that, then I mean, like, you can't get mad at that, you know? At the end of the day, like, this is information that we give up like every day, right? Like, we go to a store to go shopping, we go to H&M, and they're like, you want to sign up for a loyalty program? And we're like, sure, like, let me save 10%. We give them our email and our phone number. Like, sometimes they'll ask for like our full name, our date of birth, even more information. And to us, that set of information is kind of basic, right? Like, it's only when people start asking like, where do you live? What's your social security number? Stuff like that. Like, those are like, people are like, whoa, what do you need that for? But like, when people ask like your full name, your date of birth, email, phone number, stuff like that, like, most people are like, sure, whatever. You know what I mean? Is it going to save me money? Cool. Is that what you need to create my account? Cool. Like, most people don't care about that stuff. To kind of go backtrack a little bit, when you were asking about the election thing, like, yeah, like, I do think that it does present a problem when companies are using people's data to affect something like a national election, you know what I mean, or even a local election. I do think that presents a problem, like, for sure. At the end of the day, like, these companies that are collecting the data, if they're selling that data to affect something like that, then like, yes, shame on that company. That company should like have to pay for like what they did, for sure.
What if somebody's paying that company to do that?
Now see, like, this is like one of those things. It's like a moral thing and it's a legal thing, right? So like, morally, is it wrong? Yes. Legally, can people prove it's wrong? Maybe not. You know what I mean? Like knowing somebody's wrong and proving that they're wrong are two different things.
Why basis to build that argument? Just in the fact of, like, for example, slavery was illegal, and laws are always morphing. They're not going to be static. Like, with the invention of new technology, there's going to be new rules, new laws in accordance with those things.
So you mentioned like the presidential influence and everything, right? Is it up to, you said it was morally wrong? Or I know Rome said it was like morally wrong. I'm trying to think, like, is it up
I think that like, if like a company is using like data to alter like election results, then like, yeah, that is morally wrong. Like, it's one thing if they're like collecting data and that data is like being used on, like, if we were like voting digitally, you know, and they're using data and that data is like just being used to like, you know, like verify like the election results are true or something like that, then like, that's like cool. But like, if they're like using our data to alter like true information in like somebody else's favor, then like, yeah, that's morally wrong. Now, is it legally wrong? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, that's something that's like something that, like, you know what I mean, like, people have to prove and etc. Because like, I don't know, it could be somewhere in their terms and conditions, like, you know, it could be somewhere in their privacy policy that it's not like legally wrong what they're doing. Is it morally wrong? I do think so, for sure. Because at the end of the day, like, you know, us as people, we believe, we have like a certain amount of faith that our vote matters, and that, you know, our voice matters, and that that's gonna like be taken into account during election years. So I do think morally it is wrong to alter those results.
Okay, let's say, like, you mentioned as far as like presidential influence and everything like that, as far as election. Let's say like a company was actually posting misinformation about a candidate as far as a president, as far as like a election, and posting it to influence people, you know? is it more up to that platform to not post those lies, or is it really more up to the people on that platform to not really believe whatever they see?
So it's definitely up to the platform, I feel like, to block the spread of like misinformation that can harm people. I was upset that Facebook didn't take more of a stance during COVID to block like misinformation regarding COVID-19 and like people spreading that it's like fake and like, you know, that the vaccine won't work. And I saw that Instagram was doing like a lot, and even I think Twitter as well was doing like steps to make sure that like misinformation and stuff like that didn't spread, because that's something that could actually like harm somebody's like well-being, you know what I mean? Facebook wasn't doing that, which is something that I think that they fixed recently, but I mean, like during the height of pandemic, they should have like fixed it for sure. So I mean, I think in a sense like that, then like, yeah, like, you know what I mean, like they, like if a company is like allowing information to spread that could harm, you know, people, then yeah, like I mean, it is up to that company to fix that, you know, to like block the spread of misinformation. Like if I say that like Kanye's album is good and you say it's bad, then it's not up to that company. That's like opinion based. But if I say that like if I say that like COVID-19 is a hoax, and you're saying like go get vaccinated today, like or whatever, or you know what I mean, like, or if I say like AIDS isn't real, or like HIV isn't real, and like you're like, yo, like go get tested, or like, you know what I mean, like you're like actually saying like facts, and like I'm just like spreading misinformation, and the app's not doing anything to stop that, and it spreads. And now there's a group of people that like have that, and like and that's what happens. Like you hear it, like people are in this group, and they click on it and they see it, and they click on it and see it, and eventually becomes the only thing they see. So they believe it's true because it's the only thing that's on their feed, you know? Like I think it's up to the companies to stop the spread of misinformation, so that way like those people can see the actual truth and not just what's in their like peer circle, or not just like what they want to see, you know what I mean? Because the apps are going to show you what you want to see. They're going to give you like information that pertains to your interests. So if you're like on left wing, they're going to show you left wing stuff. You're like more on the right, they're going to show you stuff that leans more towards the right. If you're like more liberal, then they're probably going to show you stuff that's more liberal, you know what I mean? Like that's just the way these apps work, you know? So I felt that like Facebook, even though that like certain people were spreading misinformation, I feel that like it's not like that wasn't an opinion thing, that wasn't a political thing, that was like just like a fact and false thing. I think when it comes down to stuff like that, then like, yeah, these companies should take a stand.
Last question. How much does that hinder free speech though?
I don't think that hinders free speech at all, you know? Like if I say, if you tell me 1 + 1 is 2, and I say like, nah, 1 + 1 is 1, and you're like, nah, that's 1 × 1, 1 + 1 is 2. And I'm like, and you know what I mean? I got a following of like 1 million people, and I'm like, yo, like, don't believe the hype. 1 + 1 ain't 2, 1 + 1 is 1. These people are lying to. And now people are like starting to be like, yo, like this makes sense. Like, you know, and like I'm spreading it on like Facebook and Instagram and stuff, and it's building a following. Then like, to me, like, yeah, like that's not, and like to me, like that's like where companies should step in and be like, yo, like this person's out of control. You know what I mean? Like these aren't facts. You know what I mean? Like, and now that's just something small. Imagine if it was something like more dangerous. Like imagine if it was something like Ebola or something like that, and you're like, yo, like it's spreading, like, you know what I mean? Like this is killing people. Y'all like take the necessary safety precautions to make sure that you and your loved ones are safe. And I'm like out here saying, yo, it's fake, it's a hoax, it's not real, like go outside, like y'all should be traveling, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. like Ebola is not going to kill anybody, and people are believing me because I have like a following, or I'm part of a community and I have a trusted voice, and these people are believing me, then like I feel like the apps should like step in, because at that point, like it's not like a freedom of speech thing. It's just a fact, like, or false thing, you know, like it doesn't, like, I feel like if it's a clear line, then like it's clear. Like when it's opinion based, it's opinion based, but there's a difference between fact and opinion. And I feel like when it's fact, then like these companies should like make sure that facts are getting spread, especially when they affect people's well-being. If it's opinions, then it's opinions. You know, I mean, your political opinions are political opinions. Your religious opinions are your religious opinions. You know, I mean, who you like is who you like. Who you don't like is who you don't like. You know, but fact-wise, you know, when it comes to like science and math, you know, geography, like things that are based in fact, then like there's only one right answer for these things. You know what I mean? There's not two Virginias in the United States. You know, so if I go out telling people there's two Virginias in the United States, like it's not like a freedom of speech thing. It's just me being wrong. It's, you know, so I think there's a difference, and I think the company should step in when there is a difference that's going to harm people or spread like information that has malice or ill intent behind it.
What if there is kind of new? Okay, I'm done with the questions. Okay, go. I was about to say, what if there is two Virginias in the United States, because West Virginia, but forget it.
Yeah, I knew he was gonna get you with that.
But go ahead, Brian.
There's an idea that I encountered recently in this book called Deep Work, and the focus of the book isn't about tech specifically. It's about being able to focus in the information economy, the way that we currently work, how we're shifting away from manual labor. And then it also applies to that too, to a small degree. But so in the book of Deep Work, the idea that I came across specifically was about our stance on the technical revolution. So there's two things that I've identified as problematic, and I agree with the book in that regard, is that processes and concepts that we traditionally have done another way, we've come to understand or believe that because it's done in a digital format, it's inherently better than its previous counterparts or predecessors. And then also we've stopped asking, should we do this, before we ask, can we do this? So those are two real issues that I find out with tech. Like, as somebody working in the tech industry, I don't feel like everything that we can do should be done. And I think more importantly, for us to answer this question, we have to understand how exactly the data is being utilized. And so, Trevor, you kind of mentioned about our data being gold to these different companies, and I believe you're 100% accurate. And I will say to that, there's an old saying that says that if you are not paying for the product, you are the product. And you think about how, even going back further before the advent of, I guess, apps, smartphones, we've had primitive advertisement using browser cookies and search history. So, I mean, it's nothing new. But I believe that it's become increasingly more invasive. And I will say that I do understand what Rome is saying too, about the customization of the user experience and how it makes it more convenient, and some people are willing to trade off for it. But I do think that the question of why exactly the data needs to be utilized needs to be analyzed too. For example, if somebody is taking the data, you would like to think that they're doing the due diligence on protecting and using it for good, not exactly doing, I guess, arbitrary actions with it. So saying that, okay, it's a moral obligation, that may be a little bit negligible. Okay, you could say that they don't have to do this. You know, maybe it's bad morally, but it's not legally binding. But at the same time, you would want people to behave in a way that was in your best interest. Granted, you are giving them data. So I was thinking about how our data is actually being utilized, with Facebook specifically, one of the biggest consumers of our user data, being that they also own Instagram and a few other services, I'm pretty certain at this point. But so Rome, there was a conversation you and I had a little while ago that kind of sparked the interest in having this episode initially. And in that conversation, you showed me on Instagram, there's actually a nested layer of settings where you can go back and find more information about your account. And so just to get a quick idea about the data and the degree that data is collected from Instagram, obviously you can go back and look at the post that an account is liked. So Josh, you can go back and maybe your WCW, you've been double tapping her pictures. Okay, cool. You can go back and see a record of that. Nothing surprising there. But additionally, if you go to like security, access data, and account data, you can access another layer, which is your search history, any Instagram story polls you've interacted with, any Instagram questions that you interacted with. Like, they break it down into different segmented data, and that is utilized for, I guess, advertising or whatever they plan to do with it. But that's just to illustrate the fact of how segmented the data is. They really are in depth, and almost everything is recorded, because in fact we are the product. I don't recall any one of us paying anything for Instagram, unless you're doing like Instagram ads or IG marketplace, but that's you purchasing from another person, but that's beside the point. And then, so that's nothing surprising. That's stuff that we all are semi-familiar with. But Rome, I'm gonna need your help here. So there was a concept with Facebook, and there was something to the effect of them developing a project to use users' data. So let's say that you have a loved one that dies, and so them being able to compile that user's data from Facebook and to piece together, I guess, almost an avatar in which you can interact with that individual after their passing. And so it's very similar. I want you to add a little bit of color to that in a second, but it's very similar to another story that I came across for this guy called Joshua Barbeau. And so I just came across this article the other day, which is very serendipitous. So it's a website that was called Project December, and it's oddly enough powered by GPT-3, which we've talked about in the past. And for those of you who don't know, GPT-3 is a programming language of sorts. I guess that's the easiest way to relate it. Programming concept architecture that allows you to utilize machine learning to accomplish any number of tasks. And it's I think it's currently in the beta, and the beta was first released in 2020. Any of the tech folks that are interested in that. But so the Project December was actually powered by GPT-3, which really perked my interest. And so what Josh did, not Josh, but Joshua Barbeau, he used the AI to simulate his dead fiance. So by using her data or her likeness, he was able to program a chatbot with her likeness. And my thought was, is that healthy? And so understand that we have the capacity, the capability to do things like that with data. And then by extension with what you were saying, I believe in the conversation I had with you, with Facebook, doing this with user data, so they would compile this into a avatar of sorts. So where does consent come in there as well? I think that's something that, those are questions that aren't being asked. And even though I have seen other things involving like the Facebook specific platform, in which they have had certain algorithms, certain methods to keep users, once they're deceased, I guess keep their data a little bit more secure. I'm not exactly what that process looks like, but I did see something about that. But I've also heard conversely along the lines of what I was just explaining about the Afterlife project, for lack of better terms. Do you recall the conversation?
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. It's called Facebook Afterlife. But I would say, like, the difference between Facebook doing something like this and another company doing this. So Facebook has so much reach, right? Yeah. It's a monster, right? It has so much reach. And we think about like some of the companies that Facebook owns. We think about Instagram, we think about WhatsApp, we think about Oculus. And that's kind of where our mind kind of goes blank, right? We're like, okay, like Facebook owns these companies, but that's not it, you know? Facebook owns like LiveRail, Threadsy, like Facebook owns like companies that track like your face, you know what I mean? Facebook owns companies that like that track like your bookmarks. Facebook owns companies that are like location-based companies, right? Like file transfer companies, right? Like they own so many companies, like drone companies, you know, voice recognition companies, like video compression companies, like video advertising. Like it's something to think about, right? Like when they have so much reach within how much, like with all these companies that they have acquired over the past 15 years, they have so much reach with how they can collect data, that it makes something like Facebook Afterlife like something that could be actually real, because they can not only track your conversations and your interests, like what you're looking into. They not only know who your friends are, but let's say you have an Oculus as well, right? Like they can track your eye movements, so they know how long you're looking at something or where you're looking at as well. I mean, and they do this too, like on their website, on the app. They know what you're looking at, how long you're looking at it, if you're clicking on something, whatever the case is, how long you're spending on a profile, on a company's profile, if you're like looking at an ad, if you're paying attention to it, like they know all this stuff. So when you think about what's out right now, like Facebook Horizon, which is like, you know, they're like kind of like their AR, their augmented reality, and then you think about what could be with Facebook Afterlife. It seems real to me. It seems like something that could very well happen. Is it healthy? I don't know. You know, that's like a step that society would have to take. At a certain point, society said that video games weren't healthy, right? At a certain point, society said that like kids having phones too early was unhealthy. You know what I mean? They said that the internet was unhealthy, right? Like these are things that like we've all grown to like adjust with, and you know what I mean? Like we've grown to accept in like our daily lives. Like, you know, when I was growing up, there wasn't like little kids like holding like phones or iPads, but now there are. Like my nephew has like an iPad, you know what I mean? Like, you know, and he knows how to use it. It's not like he just has it and he doesn't know what to do with it. Like he's had an iPad since he's been like, you know, like 3-4 years old, and he knows how to use it, right? He knows how to FaceTime and everything, you know?
Yeah.
So it's not like it's not like is it right or is it something like that? Like it's just kind of like what we as society are willing to accept, right? Like if we're willing to accept it, if enough of us are willing to accept it, then like, yeah, like there will be some pushback, but eventually like more people will come over and like, yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like there will be like some pushback, but like people will find like a happy medium as usual. And there will be some people who use it. There will be some people who don't. There will be other companies who make a variation of it. There will be like a company who maybe makes a better version of it than Facebook does. And people are like, yo, I like that version more or whatever, you know?
And by Facebook.
And then they get popped by Facebook, right? So I think that this stuff is kind of like kind of goes into this like metaverse type of topic, because and this, I feel like this is still pretty on topic, because when you think about the metaverse, you think about like all the internet, and you being able to travel it, you being able to be whoever you want to be, however long you want to be. And if you pass away, you have like a digital version of yourself that could live there. I think with Facebook Afterlife and with Facebook Horizon and everything that Facebook owns, I feel like that could be possible. I think that if other companies, you know, like kind of like leaned into it a little bit more. Now, let's say like Xbox or PlayStation, you know what I mean? Like Microsoft or like Sony like leaned into it, and you know, like let's say that like, you know, like AMC theaters or like Lionsgate and Warner Brothers, like let's say like all these companies started leaning into it as well, right? So now like when you get on Facebook Horizon, you can be like King Kong or Spider-Man or like whatever superhero you want to be, like, you know what I mean? Like you could be like your favorite video game character, or you can like go to like, you know, like whatever world you want to be in, or like watch whatever movie you want it to be in, watch whatever movie you want to watch with your friends or whatever. Or you could decide that you want to live in one of those places when you died or whatever. So I feel like the longer we have this conversation, the more companies are going to like kind of like look at it and be like, oh, do people support it? Do people not support it? You know what I mean? And then depending on like what public opinion is, I feel like some people will like lean towards it, some people won't, but I do think it'll happen. I don't know if it's a right or wrong thing to do. It kind of goes to the question that you asked earlier, Brian, like, just because we can do it doesn't mean should we do it. I don't know. There's like an episode on Black Mirror about this.
Yeah.
Where The girl like has a dead boyfriend. She texts the boyfriend, signs up for this like program. She's texting his like digital like avatar, like, and then like she finds out there's like an upgraded version where she can like order like a real like AI version of him, and then she does it, and then it creeps her out, and I think she ends up like locking the version in the basement or something like that. You know, like I don't know, like is it like morally right to do? Like maybe, like if maybe like somebody you love died, maybe you have a kid who dies, maybe you have like a loved one who dies in a war, you know, maybe you have an unexpected death that happens, and it helps you cope by like having this in your life, and maybe you find out that you don't have a reason for it anymore and you like are able to move on. Maybe you can't move on and you just live with this person, you know, for the rest of your life. So I don't know, like it could go either way. You could get stuck, you could like heal. You know, maybe you find love on there and you like end up marrying an AI. Maybe you learn how to talk to women through there and you end up finding a girl in the real world. I don't know, like it can go either way, you know. But whether it's morally right or not, I don't know. I think society is gonna continue to grow in the way it thinks, and I think what's considered moral will change, because when I think about the metaverse and think about this conversation, kind of makes me think about like the Matrix as well, and it gets very surreal because it's kind of trippy to think about, but at the same time it's different, you know what I mean, because some of these ideas seem a little bit more tangible now than they used to.
My main ask is that we take a more responsible approach when making decisions like this because of the implications further on the line. Much like you detail, like it could go either way. I can see the benefits, the pros and cons of, for example, the AI interdependence. That you could say, okay, well, it's a coping mechanism, or you could say, okay, it's a crutch where somebody becomes too dependent on it. So that's like I said, my main ask is for us to be more responsible and start to consider things before we start to do them.
You can't ask people to be responsible. That's too much to ask.
Not gonna stop me from doing it though.
You can have high expectations.
Hold on. Didn't you also say that it was the user's responsibility to read the user agreements?
I did. Which is why I don't know if it's a morally right thing or not. Because at the end of the day, like if I signed up for Facebook Horizon or Facebook Afterlife, and I knew that they were collecting all my data and stuff like that, then I mean, and for me personally, like if I signed up for Facebook Afterlife, it's probably because I'm actually interested in it, right? So which means like I'm like as a user, and I'm just generalizing all users who would probably sign up for this. But as a user who would sign up for Facebook Afterlife, I'm assuming that most users are probably going to be aware that it's going to collect their data. If not, then like it's probably going to prompt them, like, hey, like we're going to need this information from you, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And they're probably going to be willing to give that up in order for them to have like a true Facebook Afterlife profile. So I think that most people are gonna, I still think most people are gonna be in the majority. If they're like signing up for it, they're gonna be in the majority of like not caring and, you know what I mean, just wanting the ease of convenience. And even when it goes into this metaversal topic, right? I think that most people who want to participate in something like that aren't going to care about the privacy aspect of it because they want the customization, they want the convenience, they want the socialization. So I still kind of lean where I started off at. You know what I mean? I still feel like I'm in the majority of people who want the convenience, and they probably don't care as much as Congress makes it seem people care. I think that Congress is more worried about how much money that they can get from these companies, and how much money that these companies are already giving them. I think it's more of like a lobbying type of thing, or what, you know what I mean? I think it's at the end of the day, like I think it's deeper than just us. Mm-hmm. I don't think that Congress actually. I personally don't think that Congress actually cares. that these companies are like collecting data on us. You know, like I don't. Like big pharma does things to us all the time, and at the end of the day, they get away with it. So, but that's because they have the lobbying dollars, right? They're huge in the government. I think if big tech has like that has that footprint as well, then they'd get away with as much, and Congress wouldn't bother them as much. So I don't know if it's how much they're willing to pay or how much they're getting from them, or if it's actually like something that they actually care about. I don't know.
I'll concede to your point a little bit, because none of this is obligatory. You don't have to sign up for a Facebook account. You don't have to sign up for Snapchat. You don't have to sign up for anything. So I do get that. But at the same time, there is nuance to, and although you do have several valid points, you also have several points that I disagree with. But that's you pointed out some things and brought new light to my perspective on the way that you see the situation. So I can appreciate that. I feel like I may have shifted a little bit more in your direction for those reasons. I'm really curious in hearing what Josh and Dez have to say in relation to their concerns about big tech and data consumption.
Hey guys, thank you for tuning into the episode. Be sure to look out for part 2 coming out real soon.
But while you're here, be sure to check out other great content from the Breakdown crew, including previous episodes of the podcast, Joshua versus Movies, Joshua versus Music, and of course, haven't forgotten about my plant lovers, Feel the Love. Just check out this begonia.